right, we'd like to welcome Nicole from Tanglewood. Nicole, what is your role in Tanglewood?
So I am the marketing director for Tanglewood.
And your role in Untangled Minds?
I am the executive director of Untangled Minds.
And so what question would you have for us today, Nicole?
You know, how do you, we were talking about consistent messaging and all of that, you know, how do you really accomplish consistent messaging throughout an organization to where it gets people to move and really influence the way that people view the organization to a point where it spreads to people who aren't even in the organization and they begin to reference it in the same way?
Nice. Peter, any input you have for Nicole?
Yeah, look, those kind of things, in order to get movement, you know, you don't get movement until people believe, right? And when you see in some organizations, when the employees start saying, we don't do it that way, or we need to do it this way, because they have that understanding of how you do business in a consistent fashion. And so the hard part is defining what the core, to me, the core values are from which you can create leverage with everybody, because they need to be true to what you're actually producing or what you're actually doing. Because to just name values that you're going to create a culture around in your organization about how to do business, how to solve problems, how to create growth, how to resonate with customers, they have to be true and deliverable from within the business. Because then when you've got people that aren't moving in the way you want them to in the organization, whether it's in accounting or marketing or sales or product development, you have that discussion with them about what we need to deliver, what we need to do differently, and you're referencing it back to what you are doing and what you need to do as a business to deliver a consistent product and experience to customers, and within to amongst peers and employees. And it's that I say conversation, but it's through meetings where you're actually tying in the gaps between what you should be doing as a business to be consistent, that's valued ultimately by your end customers, and what you are doing. And the moment people realize that that what they may be doing or what you may be doing as a company is actually inconsistent, and they understand that and agree and recognize it, is the moment where they start to take action in a different way. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah, that definitely makes sense.
So let's take this down to
it's not through ordering. It's not through ordering somebody or just telling somebody. Until they connect with that and they see, they can't do. They'll just do what they normally do.
So let's go ahead and break this down into concrete, actionable steps. And so, like all the employees are just like our customers, and they want to know two things. What's our intentions and what's our capability? So what is our intention? We say our intention is to help our employees achieve their full potential. We say that, but do they really believe it? Often not. Why? Because they don't see, they don't think, they're not seeing and thinking. So we could actually go ahead and mean what we say, but they're interpreting our behavior as something different than what it really is. Or we could get them to believe it, and it's not true, and they'll find it out eventually. Now, once we communicate our intentions, and that's a continued ongoing process, then do we have the capability to help them achieve what they want to achieve personally and professionally? And so, you know how, Nicole, on the Discovering Your Life Vision, and you have all the things you're passionate about?
Uh-huh.
So you and Cheryl and Jennifer and Alan and Nancy could go ahead and somehow present to the whole team and say, hey, we're looking at developing this discovery-based learning, and we want to develop our values as a company. And so we're looking for volunteers, and this is what you do to participate. So this is, whoever wants to participate can opt in. This is what you're going to get from participating, the benefit of it. And then this is what, your responsibilities are if you participate. So one of the best ways to show intention is to help somebody be involved in the process. And so if they're part of developing the values within the company, like what do we really value, and then what do we value, how do we live that value, how do we communicate that value, and how do we instill that value into 100% of the team members, and getting them to do that with you, Cheryl, and Jennifer. Alan and Nancy would be cursory, but they're probably not even involved in it. Like not in the day-to-day of it. They're looking at it, does it make sense, any input, those type of things. But you're getting them, the team, to have buy-in, and then you use the ART, the Atomic Ripple Reaction Tree, the ART Mentor, ART Buddy, and ART Ripple, those three things to be able to move that, to expand that out, to ripple that out is key. Does that make sense, Nicole?
Yeah, it does.
Questions?
I'm sure I'm going to have questions when I start to build this and implement it.
Absolutely, and Leverage is going to help you do that like crazy. Jill, what questions would you have for us today?
How do you use leverage without acting like or people perceiving you to be pushy or bossy?
Did you hear that, Peter?
I didn't hear the last bit without...
How do you go ahead and use leverage without people getting the impression that you're pushy or bossy?
Well, that's in that sense, it's kind of easy if you've got if you've built core values in a business that are customer centric, and that doesn't really matter whether it's B2B, business to business, or business to consumer, because really all you're doing is saying the core of the business, the taproot of the business, is that we build something, let's say, that will last a lifetime. When you're working with that notion of durability, let's say, anything that sort of conflicts with that becomes the discussion about how you get the right materials, the right design, the right engineering to produce something for the consumer, because you're marketing and selling based on lasting a lifetime. So you're really not pushing them on your opinion. You're pushing people or pulling people towards or teaching them what the basis of the enterprise is, and that is to deliver durability consistently. So it's less about telling people what to do and more about recruiting people that either have similar values to the business or people that can learn the values of the business and then implement them. And in that sense, you're bringing people into the team, into the culture of how you make decisions, how you challenge the status quo, which often means tension in the room when things aren't going right or when things need to go better. So it's really not about top-down management. It's more of bottom-up, consistent learning and alignment and application.
So Tom had shared the principle rings of influence. Within leadership, we often think we are the most important part, but we are the furthest away from the customer or the client. Our importance is only as valuable as it relates to the value we directly bring to the customer through the other rings. So the franchisor in Tom's situation, so that's the ones who founded Century 21, so largest real estate franchise in the world, over 140,000 agents in over 70, 80 countries. And so the owner of the company often, thinks, okay, they're the most valuable because they started it. Then they bring somebody in that's a franchisee, that owns the franchise itself, and so they're the manager, and they think they're the most important. Then you have the agent, and they will think they're the most important. And Tom said, what's hardest, Mark, is to continue to get everybody to focus in on the client. And so the development goes from the left to the right, but the importance goes from the right to the left. And so myself being blessed to have 7 children and now 5 grandchildren, so you have so right now I'm the grandparent, and then my kids, and then my grandkids. And then when my grandkids get old enough, then I'll be a great-grandparent. So I become less important, and the new generation becomes most important. Now, some of the things that Tom has used over the years, is being able to go through and use the life balance wheel and helping every team member, every employee to go through and say, we want to help you have a balanced life. And then the rings of influence and being able to understand and connect all the different dots. And that's where Life Masteries Institute, Legacy Partners, nonprofit organization, they're able to partner with us in a very, very powerful way in business if we know how to allow them to do that, and if we understand the benefit to us and benefit to them. All right, next, let's go to Elise. Elise, what questions would you have for us today?
Well, I'm curious. I have a client who is looking to increase his business substantially by increasing his partnerships, employees, and then his overall client base. How could his participation in the early weeks of this course help him with that goal?
So as the course expands out to, 25,000 plus people, obviously it gets harder and harder to, for Peter and Tom, and even myself, to talk individually and address individuals. So the smart ones are registering early to become part of the backstage passes, because then you can ask very specific questions because you're closest. So Tom and Peter and I have all been part of both participation in courses and also putting together courses where, how do I say it, we've done a lot of work, but the students aren't getting it. Like Alan Stein, president and founder of Tanglewood Conservatories, he co-authored a book with my grandson, who was 5 at the time, I believe, 4 or 5, and 2 other young people, young kids under the age of 6, and it's how to be the best student in the world in everything. And it is one of the top 5 books in my library. It's unbelievable. But the book doesn't work. And so I think, Elise, people are going to go through, and the course is promoted as, if you think you've ever seen something like this before, trust us, you haven't. Because Peter and Tom and I are more interested in making sure that people take action. We don't want this to be a college course where, okay, I have to take it for credit. And we don't want people to go through and say, this changed my life for a month, and then they revert back to the way that they were thinking in the past. So by participating in this from the very beginning, you're seeing all of the different pieces, and when you see all the different pieces, it builds on one another. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Thank you.
You're welcome. Emily, what questions would you have for us today?
Yeah, I wanted to kind of go back to it's kind of bouncing off Nicole's question. I mean, you're talking about, consistent messaging and creating culture and getting buy-in from people. But my question is, because I work with a nonprofit as well, and how do I use leverage to get buy-in from people who have gotten value from some of the things that the nonprofit, gives to people for free? How do I get them to buy in enough to be willing to give, a little bit of their time or their money back to the nonprofit and not just keep taking?
Oh, great question. Love that question. Peter, thoughts on that?
Well, I think it's twofold. One, some of the question with any business, whether it's not-for-profit or commercial, is whether you've targeted the right audience. Okay, so you've got this because if you don't have an audience that you want to contribute that sees value in what it is you're doing, then it's hard to change the proposition to satisfy those people to see value so that they contribute. On the one hand, on the other hand, if you have got the right audience, but how you're trying to create value for that audience so that they can buy into what you're doing to make it more compelling so that they'll contribute is also possible too. But it all circles around the same things as far as leverage is concerned. What is it that I'm offering, whether it's not for profit or otherwise, in terms of the good it's doing in that sense? And then the first thing is, have we made it compelling and true to what we're actually doing? Because that's marketing it in that case. And if the audience you're speaking to, if you believe you've got the most compelling message there, is stepping away when it comes to stepping up, then I would question whether you've targeted the right audience or not, because not all products, not all not-for-profits are appealing to all people.
Right.
So you have to get that. You have to get the compelling, true message about what your enterprise delivers in the first place, and then secondly, you have to target the types of demographic or individuals or organizations that are likely to see the most benefit to giving their time or their money to that.
Cool. All right, so hopefully that was helpful, Emily. Okay, we're going to wrap it up here for today's Backstage Passes. You can go to leverage.dnaforsuccess.com, no WW, just leverage.dnaforsuccess.com. And that'll bring you to the welcome page. And share this with other people. Like, I believe that when we all understand, like, we're always leveraging, everybody's manipulating everybody, and there's good manipulation, good motivation, bad motivation, and so what we're seeking to do is we're seeking to teach people, like, the science, the arts of being able to use it. And there's 4 segments here, and so there's, leverage, the course, leverage specifically for C-level executives and leaders, leverage for employees, and you've never experienced anything like this again before. And so you can go in, find a little bit, about Tom and some about the project and Peter. And then there's, some of our, back in the backstage side of it, that it's recorded and being able to go through and do that. And then there's the Facebook posts. Then when you want to, just go to click on additional information for C-level, and you'll go ahead, and if you're a C-level or if you're interested in executive, you'll go ahead and see some more videos and some more pieces on the course. What are the benefits of the course from, the various individuals, and there's some cool things that are there. And then leverage for employees, and you can click on that, and you can go to that, and that'll give you additional information about employees. And there's new ones that are being added, like, all the time. And so how cool would it be for you to be in here? Like Nicole, she's going to be in here because she's registered for the class, and she also started with Discovery Learning and Life Mastery's Legacy Partners when she was 19 years old. And so she started as a college intern, and the impact, and now she's like an executive of a nonprofit. I mean, it's just really cool to see how much she's grown. And then the last is, you've never experienced anything like this in going through, and that gives you, a lot more information. You can order at any time. And then it goes through the, some other cool videos that give you really the background of all of this, and then lots of success stories and the different lessons. Lesson 1, questions. Lesson 2, listen, see, think, solutions, do, and then leverage and connecting all of those together. So hopefully that's been helpful. Definitely for sure, invite other people to be part of the backstage experience. Personally, I think in many ways, for sure, the backstage experience will give you a deeper understanding as to the heart, the motivation, some really cool stories. And always remember, we can accomplish so much more together than we ever could on our own. God bless. Have a great day. Bye-bye.